Doug Ford just picked a fight with Ron DeSantis, and honestly, it's like watching a hockey player challenge a gator to a wrestling match. Ford standing in Niagara Falls claiming Florida's tourism is hurting because Canadians are staying home, and DeSantis fires back with numbers showing Florida just had its best tourism year ever. Awkward. It's the political equivalent of trash-talking someone's restaurant while they're literally hanging a sold-out sign on the door. But here's where it gets interesting. Ford's not just throwing shade, he's simultaneously announcing billions to turn Niagara Falls into Canada's answer to Orlando, complete with theme parks, casinos, and airport upgrades. So is this strategic positioning or political posturing gone wrong? Welcome back to Canadian Insights, where we dissect the drama faster than you can say snowbird season. Today we're breaking down Ford versus DeSantis, whether Ontario's tourism dreams can compete with Florida's sunshine, and why this trade tension rhetoric might backfire harder than a faulty firecracker. Let's dive in. Alright, let's set the scene. Doug Ford's in Niagara Falls, probably within earshot of the actual falls, announcing this massive multi-billion-dollar plan to transform the city into a world-class destination. We're talking expanded gaming, a brand new theme park, major airport upgrades, the whole 9 yards. The vision is clear: keep Canadian tourists home and their dollars local, while simultaneously attracting international visitors who'll stay longer and spend more. On paper? It sounds fantastic. Niagara Falls is already iconic, it's got the natural wonder thing locked down, and with some serious investment it could absolutely compete on the global stage. But then Ford decides to take a victory lap before the race even starts. He claims Florida is hurting because Canadians aren't flying south like they used to. And look, I get the impulse. Trade tensions are real. The US-Canada relationship has seen better days. There's legitimate concern about border policies, tariff threats, and general cross-border friction. So Ford's probably thinking he's reading the room, tapping into Canadian frustration, and painting Ontario as the smart alternative. Keep your money here, support your own backyard, avoid the headache of dealing with American politics. It's a classic protectionist pitch wrapped in tourism marketing. But here's the problem. Ron DeSantis doesn't play defense, and Florida's numbers tell a very different story. DeSantis claps back with receipts, and those receipts show Florida just crushed its tourism records. We're talking record-breaking visitor numbers, record spending, hotels packed, theme parks thriving, beaches buzzing. If Florida's hurting, they're hiding it exceptionally well behind mountains of tourist cash. And suddenly Ford's claim looks less like sharp political analysis and more like wishful thinking. It's the equivalent of telling your ex you're totally over them while they're posting vacation photos from the Maldives. Nobody's buying it, Doug. Now, why is Florida basically immune to whatever trade tensions exist between Canada and the US? Simple. Sunshine, infrastructure, and decades of being North America's premier winter escape. Canadians have been flocking to Florida since forever. It's tradition. It's in our DNA. When January hits and Toronto's colder than a polar bear's toenails, Floridians are lounging poolside in shorts. That's a hard sell to compete against, no matter how many casinos and theme parks you build in Niagara. Plus, Florida's got Disney, Universal, beaches that stretch forever, and an entire economy built around making tourists feel like royalty. Ontario's got potential, sure, but it's playing catch-up in a race Florida's been winning for generations. Which brings us to the bigger question. Is Ford's increasingly hostile rhetoric toward the United States actually helping Ontario, or is it setting up a situation where we lose on both ends? Because here's the thing about trade tensions and political posturing, they cut both ways. If Ford keeps talking tough about keeping Canadians home and painting the US as problematic, what happens when American tourists start thinking twice about visiting Ontario? We need their money too. Tourism isn't a one-way street. Ontario relies heavily on American visitors, especially in places like Niagara Falls, Toronto, Ottawa, and Cottage Country. If the messaging becomes too antagonistic, if the vibe shifts from friendly neighbors to rivals, Ontario's tourism industry could get caught in the crossfire. Brian Lilley's breakdown on this hits the nail on the head. Ford's playing a dangerous game. He's betting that Canadian nationalism and frustration with US politics will override decades of snowbird tradition and the undeniable appeal of warm weather destinations. But tourism decisions aren't just political, they're personal. People go where they want to go, where they get value, where the experience justifies the cost. And right now, despite everything, Florida still offers something Ontario simply cannot: guaranteed warm weather in the dead of winter. You can build all the theme parks you want, but you can't control the thermostat. Let's talk about Ford's actual plan for a second, because it's not all political theater. The multi-billion-dollar investment in Niagara Falls could genuinely transform the region. Expanded gaming means more casino options, which attracts a specific demographic of tourists. A new theme park gives families a reason to stay longer, spend more, and maybe even choose Niagara over other destinations. Airport upgrades make international access easier, which is crucial if you're trying to pull visitors from Europe, Asia, or other global markets. On paper, this is smart economic development. Niagara Falls has been coasting on its natural attraction for decades without maximizing its potential. If executed properly, this investment could create jobs, boost the local economy, and genuinely elevate Ontario's tourism profile. But here's where Doug Ford needs to pump the brakes. You can't will your competition into failure while simultaneously trying to build your own success. Claiming Florida's hurting when the numbers say otherwise just makes you look out of touch. And worse, it invites scrutiny. Now everyone's comparing Ontario's tourism plans to Florida's established dominance, and guess what? That's not a flattering comparison right now. Florida's already got the infrastructure, the brand recognition, the marketing machine, and the weather. Ontario's got potential and a press conference in Niagara Falls. Those aren't the same thing. And speaking of political pressure, let's quickly pivot to the conservative chaos because it ties into this whole narrative of leaders under fire. Pierre Poilievre's dealing with caucus defections and leadership review whispers while trying to keep everyone focused on affordability and cost of living issues. Grocery prices are still astronomical. Canadians are feeling squeezed. And Poilievre's betting that keeping the message laser-focused on kitchen table economics will unite his party and resonate with voters. But internal party drama has a way of drowning out even the best messaging. If Conservative MPs are publicly questioning leadership, that becomes the story, not the policy platform. The parallels are interesting. Both Ford and Poilievre are strong personalities betting on bold rhetoric and populist appeals to carry them through turbulent times. Ford's taking on Florida and positioning Ontario as the patriotic choice. Poilievre's taking on the establishment and positioning himself as the people's champion. Both strategies require total commitment, unwavering confidence, and a base that stays loyal no matter what. But both also risk overplaying their hands. Ford risks alienating potential allies and undermining Ontario's tourism industry with anti-American posturing. Poilievre risks fracturing his caucus and looking embattled instead of inevitable. High risk, high reward politics at its finest. So where does this Ford versus DeSantis showdown actually go? Probably nowhere, to be honest. DeSantis will keep running Florida, tourists will keep coming, and Ford will keep building in Ontario. The real test comes when Ontario's tourism upgrades are actually complete and we can measure whether Canadians truly stayed home or just delayed their Florida trips by a few months. My prediction? Florida keeps winning in the winter, Ontario makes gains in the summer, and both sides declare victory while everyone else just books whatever vacation fits their budget and weather preference. Look, Doug Ford swinging at Ron DeSantis is entertaining political theater, but at the end of the day, tourism isn't won through trash talk, it's won through experience, value, and giving people what they actually want. Ontario's investment in Niagara Falls could be transformative, but it's going to take more than tough talk about Florida to make it happen. And as for the broader trade tensions and political rhetoric, everyone needs to remember that cooperation usually beats confrontation when it comes to economies that are this intertwined. So if you want to stay on top of all the political drama, the policy battles, and the occasional absurdity that is Canadian politics, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're dropping multiple videos daily with all the analysis you need. Drop a comment, are you Team Ontario or Team Florida for your next vacation? Let's hear it. This is Canadian Insights, reminding you that in politics, confidence is great, but receipts are better. Catch you in the next one.